Today on Gary's Urban Larder, I'm making this very decadent chocolate bundt cake with a chocolate ganache. I've never made this recipe before. Will it be a hit or a miss? Stick around to the end and find out. Welcome. Today we're making a chocolate bundt cake, and I'll just go over the ingredients for you. We've got our chopped dark chocolate, that's 85% cocoa, and we have cornstarch, baking powder, baking soda, salt, 4 eggs, buttermilk, sugar, vegetable oil, melted butter, vanilla, our cocoa powder, and our flour. The first thing we're going to do is sift the flour and the cocoa together. So let's get started. So I've just brushed our tin with some of the melted butter and dusted it with the cocoa powder. And I've chosen the cocoa powder because it's a chocolate cake, and if we dust it with flour, then it'll leave a white crust around the outside, not too attractive. Even though we're going to glaze this with a chocolate ganache, we want this to look the part, to look good. So we'll go on and sift together our dry ingredients. Just starting a bit with the flour, I'm going to add the salt, baking soda, our baking powder, and our cornstarch. Now the cornstarch helps add a nice structure to the crumb. So I'm just going to get that started and sift that in. So we just sift this in, and we'll add our cocoa. And we're doing that because we want to make sure there are no lumps. Just keep that over the bowl, and we'll just get that all sifted together. Now, to the cocoa bowl, I'm going to add our chocolate. I'm just going to use the back of a measuring spoon to press those lumps out. I can set that aside. And there's our dry ingredients and our sugar. And it's quite a bit of sugar in this, which I'm going to add now. I'm just going to grab a whisk, and I'm just going to whisk that together. Just combine that. Get that all added. Yes, it's pretty good. I'll set that aside. Actually, I still need my bowl. So just to the bowl, I'm going to add all of our liquid ingredients together. Now, the oil and the melted butter, our eggs, those. Set that aside. And I'm going to use my whisk to just break up those eggs. And then I'm going to add in the buttermilk. Get that combined. Add in our vanilla. So now I'm just going to add all of that into the center of our dry ingredients, and using my whisk, just going to combine that. As soon as it gets to a point where it's fairly batter-like, then I'm going to switch to a spatula. Where's my spatula? My coffee, my espresso is brewing. Now it seems very thick, but remember we're going to add a cup of hot espresso and the melted chocolate to this. This is really a decadent cake. That's my first time making this recipe, so we will see how it comes out. So, you can hear our coffee going in the background. We'll just keep mixing this for now. I hear our coffee. Our espresso. I hear our espresso. Just scraping the bottom, making sure we get everything. This is going to be a really decadent cake. Okay. Now just get our coffee. So have our coffee. Just going to pour that over our chocolate. And it's a full cup of espresso. Set that aside. And we're just going to let that melt. And just going to take a little fork and make sure that, almost spilled that. Make sure that chocolate melts. That looks melted, and now we add all of that liquid and melted chocolate into the batter. Just folding that together gently. You can see the steam rising from that. So the espresso works amazingly well with chocolate. So I'm just going to get all of that together. It really smells great. I hope this turns out. I hope this isn't a miss. I hope it really is a hit. I've been planning this cake for a while now, and I researched a few recipes, and I've developed this, and this is absolutely the first time to make it. But it's really looking amazingly successful. So we'll see. The proof of the pudding is in the tasting. And we will get to the tasting, so stick with me until the end. I tell you, having a good chocolate cake is just really like the quest of my life. Whenever I travel, I often will go to a nice restaurant, and then for dessert, if they have it, I'll order their chocolate cake. I have to admit I'm often disappointed because sometimes it's really dry, it's not as rich as I'd like. And I think, well, I could have done better at home. So, now, we've got that combined, it's nice and shiny. And I'm just going to add that to our prepared tin, which has been chilling. So we've got our chilled, dusted tin. And now it's time to add this to it. So I don't want to overfill it. I don't think I will. It's coming about 2/3 of the way out. Use my spatula and get out every single bit of this rich batter. Now this is really not a pound cake. This is a chocolate bundt cake, and it's called a bundt because of the tin. The tin is a bundt style tin. Get all of this chocolate. So, there. Oh, I'm a chocolate mess. Tastes great. Just tamp it a couple of times. And now I'm going to put it in our oven. And we're using a cold oven method. So I'm going to put it in the oven. I'm going to set it to 325 Fahrenheit, 160 Celsius. And that's going to cook for about an hour. I will check it in an hour and see how it's doing. And the test will be a wooden skewer goes in and comes out clean. So let's get it in the oven. Okay, our cake is in the oven and it has about 20 minutes left. So I'm just getting started on our ganache. So I have 300 grams of dark chocolate. It's more than 70% cocoa, it's 85%, so very dark. And I'm just breaking that up into pieces into our bowl. And I have some heavy cream heating, and it's not going to come to a boil, but just to a simmer, just as it starts to bubble. And then we will pour that over this chocolate and melt it into our ganache. I have some sea salt. I'm just going to sprinkle that generously over our chocolate. And now all we have to do is wait for our cream to come up to temperature, and we'll pour it over. So I'll be with you in just a second. Our cream is just coming up to temperature. I've put the bowl with the chocolate and salt onto a scale, which I've set to 0. And the reason I'm doing that is that it's a 1-to-1 mixture. So I want to just pour in enough cream by weight. I have 300 grams of chocolate, and I want exactly 300 grams of cream. And we're coming up to 300, yes, and that's it. Now, come off of my scale, and I'm just going to let that melt as I stir that slowly together. And you see that the chocolate, well, that it's got just enough heat from the cream that it's coming apart. Now, if these were smaller pieces, they would melt more easily, but still, it's coming together. So this will be the ganache that we will put over our cake. And it's just got 10 more minutes before it comes out. So I'll continue to stir this together until it's smooth. Okay, it's time to take our cake out of the oven, and we'll see if it's a hit or a miss. The top has gotten burned, so rather it looks like a miss to me. Well, let's see what we can make. Chocolate trifle, maybe. I'm going to cut away the scorched part of the cake, of my cake. Just letting my knife be the guide. This is a comedy of errors today. So, you can see the steam still coming off of the cake. And I'm going to just turn that out onto this rack. And there's our cake. Successful or not? The proof will be in the tasting. It came away well. Nothing stuck to the tin. Just a little bit of damage here. I think that's from me cutting it. And we'll let that cool before we try to add this terrible ganache. This is a mess. This is definitely a fail. Well, you can see our ganache is an oily mess. It's split. So you think the thing to do is throw it away, right? Wrong. Got my little immersion blender. We're going to see if we can save this from a fail. And there. I have a lovely ganache. Let's see if we can finish it up. There. And waste not, want not. I'm just going to let that fall over our warm cake. Maybe. This looks like a mess. But we've saved our ganache, if nothing else. That's really decadent. Okay, today we tried a new recipe. Was it a hit or a miss? We had several challenges. Bottom of the cake burned, turned out okay. Our ganache seized, but we saved it. So now, what do we think? Is it a hit or is it a miss? Only one way to find out. Let's give it a taste. Well, slicing beautifully. Let's get a good piece. A very nice slice. Oh, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? It's still warm and looks wonderful and moist. So let's give it a taste. Oh, I want some of that ganache. Incredibly rich and moist cake. The ganache really sets it off. Well, thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed today's hit or miss. It's definitely a hit for me. So if you liked the recipe and what you saw, please give us a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel if you're not already a member. And remember to share this with your friends. Thanks. We'll see you next time. Bye.